Please be seated. The court is in session. Before handing over to Defense Counsel for Mr. Kyo Sampon to continue his questioning to the witness, the Chamber would like to remind the witness that the Chamber has noted that you have been tired for the times that you spent in giving testimonies before the Chamber. This is a fact. However, at the same time, the Chamber hopes that, Mr. Witness, you continue to give your testimony for another 1 hour. The Chamber has already informed the witness previously that witness has the obligations to answer to questions posed by the parties on the basis of what you hear, know, or experienced. Concerning the facts or events relevant to the case. And as indicated by you, Mr. Witness, yesterday, we are here to seek the truth concerning the events occurred. The United Nations and the Cambodian government agreed to create this tribunal, and for this purpose, again, the Chamber hopes that you continue to try to contribute or help the Chamber or assist the Chambers to seek the truth. Can you do this, Mr. Witness? The witness, thank you, Mr. President. I volunteer to continue giving testimony. The President, thank you, Mr. Witness. I now hand over to the Defense Counsel to continue his questions to this witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe I'll be finished very soon. And in line of what you said to the witness, I will repeat the question that he did not wish to answer before we adjourned for the break. And the question was, who at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was in charge of bringing prisoners to S21?
Thank you. Earlier, I answered that in general it was Comrade Lin, and I'm talking about a general practice. And now you are asking on a different issue, but I will answer to that question following the direction from Mr. President. I do not reject my answers to the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges. Comrade Jum once brought Comrade Tien to S21.
And the name of the comrade you just mentioned is spelled C-H-E-A-M, is that correct?
Mr. President, the messenger of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was Chiem.
Merci, monsieur le témoin.
Thank you, witness. I have very few questions left. I think there was a little misunderstanding before. I believe that you did not answer directly the question regarding how you knew that Rung was working at the state warehouses.
Mr. President, Comrade Rung worked at the state warehouse. He met me during the 17 April ceremony at Borei Kaila. He worked especially in the South Zone. I knew Rung for a long time ago.
J'ai pas d'autres questions.
I have no further questions, Mr. President.
Et nous allons
And our team, the Kisompon defense team, is also done with questioning.
The President, thank you. The President, because we still have time and the defense counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia was informed the other day that if we have any time left, the floor will be given to the National Defense Counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia so that he can put some more questions to this witness. The floor is now yours, counsel. Counsel. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Once again, I thank you very much that I have another opportunity to put more questions to Mr. Duch, the witness. First of all, witness, I would like to ask you about what you told defense counsel for Mr. Kisampon. You said there was a letter signed by Mr. Nguyen Chia. There were 4 letters actually telling you to work with Brother Vaughan. Do you still have the letter? Or did you already give it to the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges or the Office of the Co-Prosecutors? Secondly, was there any intervention from Mr. Nguyen Chia? Mr. President, says the witness, I would like to indicate to the chamber that in the letter it was written as introducing Comrade Vaughan to work at the place. And there was a mention of the name Boon or Brother Boon. That was a secret name for Brother Nguyen Chia. As I remember, I did not keep the letter. I forgot about it. Other letters of Brother Nguyen, yes, I kept those other letters. But when I ran away, I did not bring them with me. So I'm not sure whether the Office of the Co-Prosecutor could get a hold of those letters. So this is my answer to you, and I'm not sure about the rest of the other part of your question, counsel. Question. My other question is, do you believe that this is the order of Pol Pot, or it was the intervention, direct intervention of Mr. Nuon Chea? Response. Mr. President, as a principle, it was Brother Pol who decided, and it was Brother Nuon who would monitor the practice. So I believe that it was the decision by Brother Pol, and Brother Nuon monitors the work because Brother Pol never showed up in person. Question. Thank you. My next question is, in the statute of the CPK, it reads that the Deputy Secretary followed the secretaries. So it is not possible for Nuon Chea to decide, even though it was his own work, for example, concerning the assembly or education. Therefore, whether the work was correct or not, it was for Pol Pot to decide or to be responsible. And so the ultimate decision was to be made by Pol Pot. Is this correct? Response. Mr. President, in his capacity as a general controller, it is correct. Yes, he was the one who decided on the work. And once the decision was made, the decision had to be executed. The subordinate would be implementing the order, and there was someone who would be monitoring the work. For example, as indicated in the decision of the 9th of October 1975, it stated clearly that with the absence of Brother Pol, Brother Nuon would decide on Brother Pol's behalf through the analysis of documents from S21, that is after 1978. I did not see that Brother Nuon sought any advice from Brother Pol. He only wrote short annotations, for example, regarding the arrest of Kang Chap in Previhir province. So when the secretary was not there, it was the deputy secretary who would take over the work. That would fall in line with the statute of the party as well. And when it comes to the party's work, it meant that the control of the biographies of the cadres. We were told not to believe in the networks of the enemies. We were told to believe in our own networks. Bang Nuon was in charge of Long Noren's biography. He was better than, he knew better than Ieng Sary did. Especially when Pol Pot was not there, Brother Nuon would make the decision. And when Pol Pot made the decision, it was Nuon Chea who would monitor the work that was executed. Question. Thank you. Witness, you were the head of S21, and the rank was equal as the chief of the district. This according to your answers to the co-prosecutor. My question is, given this rank as equals to the head of or the chief of the district, I assume that you were educated at the same level as chiefs of district. How could you understand or know a lot more than that? Response. Mr. President, I lived in the Communist Party of Cambodia since 1971. And when it comes to the study of the party statute, I studied it since 1977. So I knew that the party would assign a core pillar and a central committee. That is my initial understanding. And I read a Chinese book which talked about the revolution in China, and I gained such knowledge since then. So it has nothing to do about the rank being close to the chief of the district or the head of the division. So we understand what was stipulated in the party statute, and I learned since 1967 about the discipline of the party. Question. Thank you. Your answer is a bit lengthy, and I did not intend to ask you to describe that, not things that you learned in China or whatever. My question is, given your status, your rank, how could you know a lot about the party? Did you know about that because you were told? Or did you know about that because you read documents? Response. Mr. President, in the party statute, it mentions clearly that the leadership in the country is the central committee, and it stated clearly that the subordinate obeyed the superiors. It was also mentioned in the statute in 1967, the statute that I learned, the statute that was created in 1960. I learned that clearly, and I was determined to respect the party. When I came to M13, I was told that I was to obey the decision of the Central Party. So this is a story. Question. In your role as a head of S21, and you was also in charge of the interrogators and the one who examines the confessions. Would like to state again, when you became the head, rather before you became the head of S21, what roles did you have? Did you have the same roles when it comes to, if we compare the roles between Pol Pot and Nuon Chea? Do you understand my question? Response. Mr. President, I will answer to that question. I indicated already during the case 001 trial. I indicated again and again. The chamber is my witness. S21, the hierarchy at S21 is not after Dutch. It was Mom Nai. It's not Mom Nai. It was Dutch. For all work of the Communist Party of Cambodia, in the face of the history, the ones who were responsible for this are these two people, Pol Pot and Nuon Chea. And again, in the absence of Pol Pot, Nuon Chea decided on the work.
Counsel, do you have any evidence to say that in the absence of Pol Pot, Nuon Chea would decide, and when Pol Pot was present, Pol Pot would decide and Nuon Chea would monitor the implementation? Response. First, we all review the document dated 9 October 75, the contents of which I already stated. If one is not present, the other one will make a decision. So one would make a decision and one would monitor the implementation of that decision. And if one is not present, one would decide and would also implement the decision. And we also have the evidence regarding this, in particular evidence from S21. The confession of the person named Kong Kieng that I mentioned this morning. The prosecutors already know the document number of that confession of Kong Kieng. So I reported about that document to Brother Kieu, raised to Son Sen. And it was likely that Son Sen would deliver it directly to Brother Nuon. That is the evidence showing that in the absence of Brother Paul, Brother Nuon would decide. So that was evident during the time that the Pol Pot declared that he was not well. And for all these details, you may consult the statement I made with the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges. So you would have both the documents with my handwriting and the handwriting of the relevant individuals. So the documents exist and the evidence also exists. Counsel, thank you. When Son Sen went to the East Zone on his mission, did you know that Son Sen went to the East for any particular period? And when did he return? Response. Son Sen separated from me. Initially, I did not know where he went to, but later on, my younger sibling, who was a medic at the general staff, came to visit me and said that he was there at the Nat Leung, as he was at Nat Leung as well. And that's how I knew about that. And when you talk about the period, Son Sen separated from me on the 15th of August 77, and I did not see him until the 25th of June 1986, when he called me in order to put me through work. So it was a long period that I separated from him. So from 77 until the 25th or the 26th of June 1986, if I could recall. Counsel, So from the 15th August 1977, when Sun Sen went on a mission through the east, you said that Noon Chea was in charge of security on his behalf. I'd like to clarify that when you returned, that is the 26th of June 1986, is that correct? If I'm not mistaken. Response. I think we two misunderstand each other. I said I separated from Sun Sen on the 15th of August 1977, and I met him on the 25th or the 26th of June 1986. Either it's the 25th or the 26th, 1986, when he called me to put me to work again. Counsel. So the time that you separated from Sun Sen was quite a long time. However, in between, was there any documents stating his return? If he were to return upon the completion of his mission to the east for 1, 2, or 3 months, did he ever contact him in his capacity as the Minister of Security? Response. Sun Sen and I, since we separated, I maintain our communication through radio communication on a monthly basis until the last month. That is, in fact, after the arrest of Salpam. I meant it's before the arrest of Salpam. Counsel, thank you. I'd just like to need your clarification that upon the return of Sun Sen, I believe, although I do not have any document to put it into evidence, however, from my understanding, the mission was not that long. He went on his mission and returned, because through your vertical network, that is to report to the Ministry of Security, my question is, upon his return, did he still work as the Minister of Security? If so, why you did not meet him during that period? Prosecutor, you may proceed, says the President.
Your Honour, I object to the question because it's based on information that Counsel says that he doesn't have or doesn't know of. It's his own intuition that he came back, and so it's a leading question, and it's actually not based on any substance that he can put forward. I mean, he can ask the witness, did Sun Sen return and when did he return? But he's putting forward facts that he's unaware of himself.
President, Counsel, do you have any reply? Counsel, I'd like to reply to the objection raised by the prosecution. In fact, the witness said when Sun Sen returned, the period in between was too long, and that he could not use that event to incriminate my client. In fact, the Minister of Security was still in his position upon the return of that minister to Phnom Penh. And if the witness said he met with the minister on the 25th or the 26th of June 1986, it was far too long a period. So then it means they worked between the Ministry of Security and other security centers could not function. I, of course, do not make a conclusion, but it seems very unlikely. President, the objection by the prosecution is sustained. Counsel, please rephrase your question and try to avoid your subjective conclusion. You need to rely on the events and relevant facts within the case file. Counsel, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to continue with my questions. Based on your statement to the OCP on the 26th of March 2012, that the subordinate needed to report to the superior, namely, the platoon has to report to the company and the battalion has to report to the regiment. How come you made a report to Noon Chi in the absence of Son Sen? Does it mean that it is in contradiction to the hierarchical structure that you stated before the OCP, and which is also contradictory to Chapter 3, Article 6 of the party statute? Response. As an independent regiment, S21 is under the subordinate of the General Staff. As for the logistics, weaponry, and medical supplies, clothing, uniforms, for instance, they are under the direct subordinate of the General Staff. Before Son Sen was engaged at the battlefield, all the yearly trainings at S21 was with Son Sen. Besides, after the 15 August 1977, I separated from Son Sen. I used that word, we were separated. And as for Son Sen, I already stated that he was appointed as Minister of, at that time, it was called Minister of Country Defense, not National Defense. That was his title then, and his role was in charge of the General Staff, and his activities were accordingly so. In the time of need by the country, the General Staff was ordered to go to station in Net Lương. So it was upon their communication that when he was called to the ministry, that was in relation to the General Staff. Separately at S21, we were under the control of Son Sen. Son Sen already stated that, comrade, you need to report all the documents to S21 to me personally, as I represent Angkar. And that was his exact words. And in practice, I never reported to anyone else except Son Sen. Now, let me refer to the party statute. What you stated is correct. The subordinate has to respect the superior. So the regiment needed to report to the division, but for the independent regiment, it is needed to report to the General Staff. However, S21 was established by Article 8 of the party statute under the control of the Standing Committee. I do not have the document with me. If you need, I would seek the President's permission to show the article on the screen. Council, yes, I have that article with me. I thank you for your reply. However, I do not have much time and I have more questions to ask, so I would prefer you to respond briefly and precisely. You, in your reply to the prosecution, in 1979, Brother Noon ordered you to smash all the remaining prisoners. Can you reconfirm whether the order from Brother Noon was actually the order from Noon Chi or from someone else? And that's question number 1. And question number 2, where was Son Sen in early January 1979 before the arrival of the Vietnamese soldiers in Phnom Penh? How was the orders executed? Was it verbally or in writing? Was it with any particular signature or stamp? If not, did you believe that it was the order from Noon Chi at the time? Response. Thank you, Counsel. Let me clarify that. Brother Son Sen was likely engaged in the battlefield from the 25th of November 1978. My apology, it was 77, because the signature on the document sent to I-71, as we seen during the hearing in case 001, his last signature was on the 25th of November 77. So I believed that Son Sen was engaged in the front battlefield since. As for my communication through radio was not frequent, so Son Sen never met me in person from that date. That's the first point. And for the second point regarding the order to smash the remaining prisoners at S21, the order was from on the 1st of January 1979, but I was not that precise. However, the remaining prisoners were all smashed on the 3rd of January 1979. That is based on my recollection. So Brother Noon issued the order directly through me, and let me recall some of the words in the order and that I met him in person. He said, for all the remaining prisoners, you need to smash them all, comrade. Then I asked him, so what about the June detainees? Do we have to smash them? Because we need to prepare the text for the radio broadcast. He said, smash them all, because sooner or later we will find them. Then I asked about the Joe 8. Do we have to smash them too? Then he said, that is up to you. And that was his exact wordings from him to me at the time. Counsel, thank you, witness. Another question for you. You talk about the standing committee at the zone was the one who made the decision at that zone level. What about at the sector or at the district or the cooperative levels? Was it a common practice that the secretary at those respective levels need to make the decision or needs to request for approval from the upper echelon? President, witness, please wait. The international prosecutor, you may proceed.
Mr. President, just for clarity's sake, it's not clear whether Council is referring to the decision to smash from the 30th of March 1976, which authorised zones to kill, or whether he's referring to other general decisions not in relation to killing. I think it would be useful for the witness to know what type of decision he's referring to.
The President, thank you, the prosecution. Counsel, could you rephrase your question to be more precise for the witness to respond? Usually we base questions on the document. So usually you can post general questions based on the document. Counsel, I do not wish to reply to the objection raised by the prosecution. I'll move on to another question. Regarding bringing the people to Phnom Penh, it was at the discretion of the Secretary or Deputy Secretary. How did you know about that? You were only just a chairman of S21? Response. The soldiers were established in 1956 as a secret force for the party. It was established by each zone. However, they were under the control of the party. Talking about the party here meant talking about the secretary and the deputy secretaries. In 1974, this force was gathered to become a division under the control of the party secretary. That's how it was formed. Regarding the 1971 party statute, it was rather slightly different from the one that we have. Soldiers were the close children of the party. That's how it was stated. Counsel, thank you. Witness. Regarding the role of I-21, which was to get the confessions which would implicate others, that is based on your statement before this court, and the superior, that means your superior, was that your common practice at the time? Response. That was the common practice, Mr. President. That was the way the CPK practiced since the Isara period. Counsel, when Son Sen went to the East Zone on his mission, you told the court that during that period, Nuon Chea was in charge on behalf of Son Sen. Did you ever see any official document appointing Nuon Chea in his place, in charge of security, and who appointed him? Response. Since I went to see Son Sen when I was under his control, he said what was told to be done by Brother Noon. I did not just make it up. It showed that about Son Sen was Brother Noon and then Brother Paul, and that was commonly known. And on the 15th of August 1977, I was called. I think it was Comrade Lin or Comrade Nat. I was called to work. And at that time, it was not at the location to the north of Boracay where Son Sen worked. It was at Samarkand Institute. I went to the second floor and I met Brother Noon there. He said, Comrade Kiel, now go to the front battlefield, and I am here to lead you on his behalf. And we also have Comrade Pong and Comrade Lin, both of whom you already know. That's what he told me. So, as he was a deputy secretary, everybody knew. We all knew that Brother Noon was more senior than Brother Kiel. So that's how it was. Regarding any official transfer of authority or any official stamp, no, it did not exist. Council, last week on the 5th, I actually asked you the question, but due to the time limit, I'd like to ask you the same question with some additional supplementary questions. When you were asked by the prosecutors whether you believe that the revolutionary flag magazines could be duplicated, and you said you believe that yes, they were the copies. And the question is, why do you believe that they were the copies? What do you base your assessment on? That's question number 1. And for question number 2, do you know where the original copies of the magazines are kept when you received? And do you know where they are located or kept now? I refer to the original magazines. Response. Regarding the revolutionary flag magazines, I did read them successively since late 1971 or early 72. That's point 1. And point number 2, that I acknowledge that the photocopies of the revolutionary flag magazines, I restated that I did not see them making photocopies, but I believed they are the copies of the original copies. And if you ask about the location of the original copies, maybe some were collected from I-21, and I believe the original copies are maintained by Chang Yuk. Of course, I know about the movements because I also follow the proceedings in this court. Counsel, I have another question for you. The document that is your handwritten document, E180, with the title that lessons learned from the experiences of the elders of former generations. EN in Khmer is 00787939. In English, 00791979. Jew wrote that Ho Chi Minh decided to remove Sương Ngọc Nghênh to Hanoi and left Siêu Heng in charge in the country. What were the policies of Ho Chi Minh? And do you have any evidence to support the policy by Ho Chi Minh so that the Cambodian people can understand about the historical event? Response. The document of this kind was maintained in the document by the CPK after the Geneva Convention. Ho Chi Minh removed Sương Ngọc Nghênh to return to Hanoi, and there were 1,700 Cambodian combatants and cadres. They were taken to study in Vietnam, and that was the fact. As for his exact wordings, we did not have any of that. Siêu Heng was kept in the country. That point was also mentioned in the document of the CPK. Council, I have another question. In your writing E180 in Khmer 00787952, English is 00791999. That is, after the coup d'etat, you talk about the presence of the Vietnamese troops in Cambodia. You said that the Vietnamese troops who took refuge in Cambodia defeated the Luno authorities at district levels and established a provisional authority. This provisional state power belongs to the Vietnamese Workers' Party. However, in appearance it was Cambodian. As cadres sitting on the sector and district party committees were all Vietnamese with Khmer names. The Cambodian troops who were mobilized by Vietnamese were part of the Vietnamese party and under the control of the Vietnamese company committees. Confiscated weapons and booty belonged to the Vietnamese party. Cash and taxes belonged to Vietnamese party. That was the extract from your paper. You said that that authority was a provisional authority and that it shall be delivered to the Khmer Angka. I want to ask whether was there any handing over to the Khmer authority? If so, when was the event? Response. Let me give you one or two examples, which are historical events. In my native village is in Stone. Vietnamese liberated Stone about the 16th of March. Let's say, I apologize, let's say it was in June. Then they appointed a cooperative to become a district front committee. His name was Front Prum, and later on the Khmer Angka arrived with Comrade Nguyen. Actually, Nguyen died at age 21. He became the district secretary at the time. So that was the changing over of the authority. As for Asang area and Kotum, Lược Dijk and Kinsweit, they were controlled by those authorities from An Giang province. They appointed their front committees, district committees. I get confused. They organized the sector committee and the district committee, and they appointed the soldiers, the front committee at the district and the sub-district and the village levels. So they brought to Vietnam all the booties and confiscated weapons and also the taxes. An Giang authority controlled all these. By July or August, the East appointed a party committee for Sector 25 to protest against the Vietnamese authority until the Vietnamese authority shot dead a Cambodian tax collector to the south of President. And until December, the authority was handed over from Sector 62 of An Giang to the sector under the control of the East. That is about the handing over. Sometimes it was shorter, sometimes it was a longer period. So in Stung, it was in a short period of time for the transition of power. Council, thank you. In the paragraph which I read, I have 5 questions, and I already asked one, so I still have only 4 more questions for you. For question number 2, why the Vietnamese party established the authority to control within the territory of Cambodia at the time? Response. I think this would lead to my conclusion as I analyze the situation, and I can draw a conclusion. Vietnamese and Vietnamese soldiers took refuge in the Cambodian territory, and during the coup d'etat, Lon Nol got assistance and weaponry supply in a ship by Seattle, and he also returned the Vietnamese migrants back to Vietnam. They were detained first in various locations. One was near Psa Kondal market, and they were sent through either a refugee organization or a Red Cross to Vietnam. That was the time the Vietnamese soldier from the south raised the flag of the United Front to defeat the Lon Nol authority and to take control of the local authority. And what was the purpose of that? In fact, we relied on the Vietnamese assistance. However, in fact, Vietnamese took the opportunity to control Cambodia. But of course, that was not possible. But they stayed as long as they could and where they could benefit from the area. Thank you, says the council. I have 3 more questions, then it's finished. Regarding the Vietnamese authority in Cambodia, how many were they? And where were they in Cambodia? Can you tell the court? The Vietnamese committee to control soldiers and established by Vietnam in Cambodia after the coup d'etat in 1970, they were all went back to Vietnam. I only know the committee commander in Kien Svai. As for the committee controlling Kothom district was Win Nam Do. They all went back to Vietnam. Thank you, says the council. This is my last question. How can you explain the strategy by Vietnam on the Cambodian territory? Response. Let me talk about the event after the coup d'etat of 18 March 1970. We did not seek their support or assistance. They were already there. They used a weapon to chase away the colonial authority. And what was the purpose? We also can explain that so it is very difficult to say about the real intention because no one explained that to us. Council, thank you, witness. Thank you, Mr. President. I already conclude my questions. President, thank you, council. Thank you, witness. The time is now appropriate for the adjournment. Before the adjournment, the chamber would like to ask all the three defense teams whether your clients are intending to confront this witness. We may start from Nuon Chia's defense team.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we announced last week, if I remember correctly, our client would like to read a statement or give a statement in response to this witness's testimony. And now that I'm on my feet, there's also some other more procedural points we would like to raise next week. I think we have to digest what has happened and how the examination of this witness unfolded. And we would like to come back to at least two decisions your trial chamber took during the examination of this witness, which we believe violate our right to examine this witness effectively. But I will come back to that next week. But to answer your first question, or your question, our client would like to respond to what this witness has said the past weeks. I do not expect it will take more than 10 to 15 minutes.
President, the schedule that we are intending to have is for your clients to question the witness. It's not for the lawyers. So you may need to consult with your client whether your client wishes to confront this witness.
I will ask him whether, in addition to the statement he would like to give, he has some questions for the witness as well.
President, what about Ieng Sari's defense? Counsel for Ieng Sari. Your Honors, also good afternoon, Mr. Kangkej Il. Mr. Ieng Sari already declared his exercise of remaining silent, and he still maintains his right. As for witness Kangkej Il, he will maintain that right as well. Thank you. President, thank you for stating the ground. As for Kirsten's defense, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Kirsten does not wish to question the witness, Dutch. Thank you. President, thank you to all the three defense teams for your response. The Chamber would like to inform Nuon Chia's defense that if you wish to make a remark or observation regarding the proceeding in questioning this witness, please put it in writing and submit it to the trial chamber. All parties are having the same right, and they also have the right to respond to the submission by Nuon Chia's defense team in writing. And regarding that, the Nuon Chia wishes to make a statement which takes 5 to 10 minutes. That's all what we get. And as for the two other defense teams, they do not wish to question this witness. The time is now appropriate for the adjournment. Once again, the Chamber would like to thank the witness Kang Gek Ew alias Deutsch for your endeavor to respond to several questions during these several days period with patience and best effort. The Chamber do not have any question for you at this stage. Security guards, you are instructed to take Kang Gek Ew alias Deutsch to the detention facility. The lead co-lawyer for civil parties, you are on your feet in a very last minute. It seems very inappropriate to do so. Next time, please try to use the time within the court session, and just not after or immediately before the adjournment of the day.
Mr. President, please forgive me for taking the floor at the very last minute. I won't be very long. I thought that the Chamber had taken a decision regarding Mr. Nuon Chia's statement. If this is not the case, and if it is indeed possible for Mr. Nuon Chia to make a statement, well, then we would like to be able to discuss this when the hearing will resume, that is to say, next Wednesday. But we would like to express ourselves. We thought that the decision had already been taken. We didn't believe that this point could be rediscussed.
President, the court is now adjourned and it will resume on Wednesday, the 18th of April 2012. That is after the celebration of the Khmer New Year, and it will commence at 9 a.m. Security guards, you are instructed to bring the three accused to the detention facility and have them back here in the courtroom on the morning of 18 April 2012 before 9 a.m.
សូមចេញក្រោយចូល